So I always start at the data center. First thing first, whatever company you're choosing or whether you're doing it yourself, Tier 3 or Tier 4 data centers are the way to go. And what are the differences? It really comes down to power. Okay, so a Tier 3 data center, it might have redundancy coming into the facility, but you're stuck at one substation. So if one substation goes down, even if you're connected to another one and it triangulates back, if you're down one substation, the reality is both of your substations are down in Tier 3. And so you're out of power. So then what do you have to have? You have to have redundancy at your UPS level. UPS is kind of the middleman if you think about it, right? You have your street power, that's what we're all running on right now. You have UPS, which sits in the middle, and then you have your generator power. The UPS is there for when street power goes out until the generators spin up. Otherwise, your generators and your motors would have to be on at all times. We all know that that's not an efficient use of time. So that's kind of what the Tier 3 structure is. Tier 4 is very redundant, right? What does it have? It has very different power grids, okay? I have a set of power that's coming in from Pico. I have a set of power that's coming in from PSE&G, for instance. And in the event that Pico goes down, you don't have to worry because as long as PSE&G and their substation is up, you still have power, okay? Independent redundant UPSs, independent redundant generators. So everything is redundant within itself and also redundant across itself. Once you kind of get through the data center, and once you start to look at the network, and if I were you, I would spend all the time there because the last piece becomes a little bit easier. There are some basic questions that you can ask around the cloud. First and foremost, is it self-healing, yes or no? And what does that mean, right? It's one thing if I'm self-healing and if the first server that my VM is sitting on is about to go down and it moves because that server's about to crash. That's one part of self-healing. It's another thing to say, okay, I'm a virtualized machine on server 1, and let's say you're a virtualized machine on server 1. We're both sitting next to each other, and I forgot to tell you, guess what, I'm going on the Oprah show in a couple minutes. I got this big book going out, and you're sitting on the same server. So all of a sudden, I go from like 1 hit a month to like a million hits a minute, and you're sitting on the same server. Well, that's no good, right? A lot of clouds are built so that when something's going down, it'll fix itself. But what it doesn't do is when I start to swallow up a whole bunch of demands, it does you no good because you're sitting next to me on the same highway. So all of a sudden you're in a traffic jam. I'm getting all the benefits of it, and your business is losing. So how does your cloud, and VMware has some great technologies and all that, but how do you move around the cloud in such a way that you don't end up being the victim of someone else's success? So the self-healing nature of these clouds ends up being a really important piece. And then with that comes this high availability storage. I'll mention Dell because they're one of our partners on the storage side. We have Dell and EMC and others, but Dell does a great job for us on the redundant storage. And so we have multiple controllers and disk and all this really important stuff. So in the event that I have a controller fail or a whole bunch of disks fail, guess what? I can jump over to other disks, and I can continue operating. There's a lot of really good benefits there. And then the most important thing is the strategy of I/O. So yeah, it's wonderful that you give me a whole bunch of storage. All right, that's great, but it's no good if I can't write to that storage in a consistent manner. So a lot of times you'll hear about cloud companies, and you've heard them in the news, I won't mention them, but where they have, it's slow. Why is my cloud so slow? Why is my server so slow? It's usually not the networks unless you're being DDoS. You'll know about it because it'll go from I'm on to I'm off, right? And it's usually either there's a device went down or you're being DDoS. In the I/O world, it's much different. You start getting a little slower, you're not sure why, and all of a sudden things start to fall over. And the question is, how do you fix it? Well, cloud companies having nice redundant storage allows me to say, okay, I might have a customer that sits across 10 or 12 disks of spindles, right? How do I give them more disk? Not more storage, right? You still, let's say if you're a terabyte before, I'm still keeping you a terabyte, but instead of giving you 10 disks where people can come in across 10 disks, I might give you 100, or I might give you 400. How do I do that and increase the speed of your solution without increasing the storage space? Well, if you're a one company show, guess what? You must have a ton of storage sitting around to do that, or the reality is that you're going to have to add more servers, or you're just not going to fix that problem. It's going to get expensive. Well, your cloud company, say, hey, look, I don't want to pay for additional storage. Increase my spindles, do it now. Or have it automated in such a way where it automatically, predictively takes place. There's some real value there.